So what are we going to be talking about today? So we are going to be showing you how to buy a business without using your own cash on the very best possible terms. And that's a pretty wide blanket, broad statement. But if we were to summarize, that's what it's going to be. I help people buy a business utilizing other people's money on the very best possible terms. And I'm going to be sharing lots of ways of doing this. I'm going to show you how to de-risk a transaction. A lot of people worry, is there personal risk when I buy a business? So I'm going to be showing you how to make sure that doesn't happen. I'm going to show you how to confidently buy a business. And I think that one of the side effects of attending a training like this throughout today is that your confidence level goes up. It's not just about learning things. It's about gaining confidence and belief that you can do it. And so much in life is about confidence and belief, isn't it? And if you've got the confidence and belief and you've got the strategies as well, then you've got yourself a winning combination. And sometimes people think they know about buying a business because they bought one a few years ago. And I can tell you right now that everything about buying a business has changed. So much has changed in the last few weeks alone. And it will have an impact. It won't go back to normal. I've got a transaction that I found out about. Which day is it today? Is it Friday? So I found out about this. It was Tuesday or Monday. So it was towards the beginning of the week. My colleague actually found it. I didn't find this deal. And we are expecting to sign the agreement tomorrow. She's actually going to do this face-to-face with the seller. So I've never spoken to the seller. My colleague's done all that, never emailed with her, never had any contact with her, and very, very simple agreement to buy this business. And we'll cover this in more detail in one of the webinars later in the day, but I'll tell you how much I'm paying for it and why you can buy this business on a credit card. I mean, it really is such a low amount of money, and it's a fraction of the annual profit, which is usually you buy on a multiple of profit. In this case, weirdly, we're buying on a fraction of the profit. So we will get our money back within just a few months, which is exceptional. So these things, to be fair, were always around. You could find those deals last year before, but now there are just so more of them, which is why you've got to make the most of this opportunity. If you miss out on this opportunity presenting itself over the next few years, starting right now, then you will be kicking yourself. You want to look back on the lockdown, the pandemic, the recession, because that's what it's, this is the start of a worldwide recession, as an opportunity. And I think that you wouldn't be on this webinar if you weren't a pretty positive person. So, I think that you probably already realize that this is an opportunity, and it's not a time to curl up in the corner and hope it's all going to be over. So I want to prime you for this opportunity. And today's training, and remember, it's not just this first session, it's this afternoon and this evening. And I know around the world you're in different time zones, but you know what? Set your alarm, get up in the middle of the night, join us for 90 minutes, go back to bed. It's worth it. You only have to do this once. So we've got a lot to cover over the course of today. But I know that some of you know me really well, and some of you have no idea who I am. So for those of you who know me really well, you will know that I started this 21 years ago. So I've been doing this a long time. I'm not someone who's just come up with this idea in the last couple of weeks. I've been doing this a very, very long time. I sold a publishing business when I was 27 years old, and it opened my eyes to one incredible thing. I made more money when I sold the business than I ever did from owning and running the business. Now, let me let you into a broader secret. Over the years, I've always made more money selling businesses than I ever have from running them. Where the majority of business owners focus on running a business, taking a salary, dividend at the end of the year, drawings throughout the year, paying everyone first, getting paid last. But if you start to switch your thinking, and I think a big thing about today is switching your thinking, is realizing that it's not all about running a business, turning up to the office. It's about selling businesses to make the real money, to make the big bucks. But if you have to start a business in order to sell it, then you've got yourself 3 or 4 years of probably not making any money and maybe even putting money in. But what if you just bought a business and you bought a business between now and the end of the year, and that is the business that you sold in a year or two's time? Do you see how we speed up the whole process? And this was the light bulb moment for me when I was 27. I grew a group of businesses by acquisition, and I sold to a private equity firm in 2007. And I know that we've got at least one person on the training today who was a customer of that business and will know exactly what I'm talking about. I've written 10 books on business. Easy to say, harder to prove. So I am in my bookshelves here. I've got a pile of them. Let me show you. Let me show you. So this was the first one. This was in 2004, called Sack Your Boss. You can't get this anymore. Yeah, 2004. That was all about quitting your day job and starting your own business. Then the second edition of that one is here. Slightly more professional looking. That's the second edition of that one, Sack Your Boss. That was in 2005. And then I've got them slightly out of order here. Oh, then there was that one. I did that one in 2007, The Marketing Secrets of a Multimillionaire Entrepreneur. Nothing like being humble, right? And then that one for small business owners. And then that one, Overnight Success. That was about a year later. 1001 Ways to Get More Customers. I mean, goodness me, that was a chunky one. And then this one, that was about 6 months later. I was on a roll that year. And then this one, How to Buy and Sell Great Businesses. That's out of print now. Oh, I missed out one. Unsung Business Here. I don't know if anyone's counting, but we should be nearly up to 10 here. That one there. And then Business Buying Strategies. That's the latest one. And there's another one. I've lost it. It's here somewhere. Called 101 Tough Questions Answered About Buying a Business. So I've been doing this for a long time. And I hope that even by the end of this first webinar, you'll understand that I'm speaking to you from a place of expertise, knowledge, and experience. And over the years, I've bought and sold from, whenever I say PE, I mean private equity. They're the guys with the money. Yeah, there's the saying, isn't there? Who was the bank robber that they said, why do you rob banks? And he said, well, that's where the money is. Why do you sell to private equity? Well, that's where the money is. But I've also bought companies from private equity groups. So these are companies that they just want to get rid of. One anecdote I tell, I won't be telling it today, but one anecdote is a business I bought for £1. It was a 5 million revenue, circa 5 million revenue business from a private equity firm. They just wanted to get rid of it, and they sold it to me for £1. I won't be using that as a case study today because I've done that on my other webinars, but yeah. And I'm currently growing a group by acquisition in the early years, the childcare sector, 7 businesses in the last 8 months. And I would always say to people, if you come across a nursery, a children's nursery in the UK that's up for sale, please send it over to the office. You know, if we do the deal, I'll pay you a finder's fee. Very, very happy to do that. That's not the purpose of the webinar, by the way, but you know, I practice what I preach. I'm not someone who teaches this. I enjoy teaching it. I get paid for teaching it. I get paid very well for teaching it, and I'm very happy with that situation. But it's only about 5-10% of my time. The rest of my time, we're focusing on growing this group around the UK. And I work with people who want to do the same. I have what we call a mastermind program. It's a year-long program. It's £12,000. And I'm not going to be mentioning that at all today because it's not relevant to today. But I do have something that's just a few £100 that I will tell you about at the end after we finish the content. So I don't want to dilute the content with a sales pitch, but I will be doing a sales pitch later on once you've got the content, once you've got what you're here for. And these are the sorts of people, these are the sorts of results that people get. Now, these are the sorts of results that you can get. These are the sorts of results that you can get if you apply what I teach you. So Perry has bought 2 multi-million-pound businesses in the last 12 months alone. And by the way, I've done interviews with some of these people. They're on my YouTube channel, you can watch the whole interview there. Andy has made 3 acquisitions in the last 12 months. Now, the first one doubled the size of his 10-year-old company. Let me explain what I mean by that. He'd run and operated a company for 10 years, and then he made his first acquisition, and that 10 years of work, that 10 years of result, I should say, 10 years of work that led to a 10-year result, suddenly doubled in a matter of weeks. Now, that was his light bulb moment, and you'll be having plenty of light bulb moments throughout the course of today, because if you work hard for 10 years to build your company to a certain level, and then you just make one acquisition in a matter of weeks, and you effectively do another 10 years of effort in a matter of weeks, why wouldn't you do it again? So now he's done it 3 times. The 4th one's about to happen, by the way. John has made 3 acquisitions from administrators in the last year. You may have seen a lot of businesses going into administration. In different parts of the world, this is called differently. In America, Chapter 11, Chapter 12, there's different phrases, different terminology for it. But when a business goes into administration, it means that it cannot pay its creditors, and it goes into this protective state while the administrators look for a buyer for the assets of the business. In the UK, we have a chain of restaurants called Carluccio's, very popular. I used to go there for my breakfast at least 3 times a week. And they went into administration a few weeks ago. They were purchased for that group was purchased for £90 million a few years back. And the new owners have just bought part of the business, not the entire business, for £3.4 million. They've actually bought 30 restaurants for £3.4 million. So just over £100,000 per restaurant. I mean, I don't know about you, but that's a bargain. That's a bargain. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Not a huge amount, but we'll talk about that maybe later on this evening. This evening, we're going to take a lot more questions this evening. So I'll be happy to answer questions about that this evening. And then David's in domiciliary care, where people have live-in carers. He's added 3 million of revenue to his company in the last 6 months via acquisition. So, these are the sorts of results. If you want to do this, if you're serious about this and apply yourself, I'm not going to pretend it doesn't take hard work. Of course it takes work. It takes work, it takes effort. Everything in life worth doing takes work and effort. Then you can achieve the same results as well. Roland, had an ambitious plan. He wanted to go from 12 million to 50 million in the next few years, but it was a dream. But now he's got a solid strategy to make it a reality, and he used the strategies I'm going to be teaching you this morning, this afternoon, and this evening to do that. The same with Adam. He's grown his business by 300% using the strategies I'm going to be teaching you today. And very kindly, Nicholas said, if you're thinking about growing via acquisition, I'd get yourself on the next course. So buying a business is going to do several things for you. I want to be very clear about the outcomes before I share the first strategy. And the first strategy is a huge strategy, by the way. The first strategy is a mega strategy. And I wanted to start with something pretty mind-blowing because I want you to realize how big this opportunity is. But I want you to realize what happens when you buy a business. You get to your goals an awful lot faster. You get there faster because you're not messing around by running more adverts, doing a bit of Instagram, getting one customer today, losing a customer tomorrow. I mean, you just get there faster than you would ever do if you were doing this all by yourself. It takes the guesswork out as well. The guesswork is, how do I get from where I am to where I want to be? How do I do that? Well, if you have an acquisition mindset, you'll say, I'm currently at, I'm currently at 300,000 revenue or 500,000 revenue. How do I get to 1 million? Well, let's just buy a business that bridges the gap between where we are and where we want to be. And there you go, we're there. And here's the thing, you can actually buy a business bigger than the one you currently own. And I want you to bear that in mind. I think a lot of people assume you have to buy businesses smaller than yourself. Maybe because you think you won't be taken seriously by the seller of the business if you're smaller than them. But no, a fast way to business growth is to buy businesses larger than yourself. Your stress levels will be reduced. I remember when I was an operator, And by operator, I mean someone who turned up to the office every day, someone who's in the business thinking about it every day. I had high stress levels. I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning thinking about work. Well, all those times are over now. So I have about 100 staff at the moment in these 7 businesses. Many have been on furlough for the last, 2 months. But they're all coming back to work as of next week. There's been an awful lot of things changing, but to be fair, it hasn't actually caused me any stress because I've got a management team in place that are paid to be stressed on my behalf. They're paid to deal with this sort of thing. I mean, if you're a business owner, you'll know that feeling when you get a text at 7 a.m. from someone saying that they can't come into work because they're ill, and you kind of know it's a hangover, but you can't challenge them again. So you let it go and you think, oh, this person's going to be quitting soon. Then you got to hire someone else. I mean, it's just, it is a bit of a nightmare. The stress levels are so high. But when you buy a business, remember, you're not buying a job. You're buying a business that someone else operates. And that gets you out of this day-to-day doing. It gets you out of the activities that cause the stress. And here's the thing. Now, we're going to be talking about this in our first strategy, but I want to just give you a little taster now. If you buy businesses, it will allow you to grow your business so you can sell it for a larger amount of money. Now, I think part of that stands to reason, doesn't it? If you have a larger business, you think, well, a larger business will sell for more money. But here is an idea I want to seed in your mind. What if that large business was a combination of several small businesses? And the small businesses, because they are small businesses, have small value. Why? Because they haven't proven anything. They're just small businesses. They haven't proven they can do anything great. They're stuck at small. But if you take those small businesses and combine them into a big business, first of all, you're going to have a lot of cost savings because you're consolidating the business. Those cost savings all add to profit. So now you have a more profitable business. And a larger, more profitable business can sell for a higher multiple. Now, what's a multiple? A multiple is the number that you multiply, typically the EBITDA. I will not be blinding you with jargon at all during the course of today, but there will be a little bit. So EBITDA is the earnings before depreciation, tax depreciation, and amortization and interest. So it's a pre-tax figure. So you typically take the pre-tax figure, multiply it by a number, and you get your sale price, your purchase price. But you see, these small businesses might sell at very small multiples. 1 times EBITDA. So 1 times profit. Think 1 times profit. 1.5 times, 2 times, 2.5 times, 3 times, 3.5. Yeah, small numbers. But when you have a larger business, you can sell it 6 times, 7 times, 8 times, 9 times, 10 times. So we'll be talking about this in a bit more detail, but I just want to just plant the seed at this early stage. See, the light bulb moment for me, and I'm going to be asking you as the day goes on what the light bulb moment for you has been. So start thinking, what is the moment when the light switch is turned on and, oh my goodness, the bulb is burning brightly? Is you make more money buying and selling companies than you will ever make from just running a company. Let me say that again because it's worth repeating. You make more money buying and selling companies than you will ever make just from running a company. Now, some of you might be thinking, okay, Jonathan, that's all well and good, but it's not all about the money. Well, no, it isn't. But you know what? If you make more money, that actually reduces your stress levels because quite simply, you don't have to worry about paying for things so much. It gives you more freedom. It allows you more choice. I used to say that it would give you more holidays. Right now, you can't go on the holidays, but it gives you the options. But you know something? Buying and selling companies is also a lot more fun. It is a lot more fun doing this than it is running a business day to day. And I've done both. And I can tell you without any doubt whatsoever, you'll have more fun and make more money and have less stress doing what I'm teaching you on the training today than you will ever have turning up at an office and doing the day-to-day stuff. So this is what you need to do. You need to transform from being a doer to a deal maker. If right now you're a doer, maybe you're a doer for someone else. Maybe you work for someone else. That's even worse in a way, isn't it? Because however much work you put in, you'll still just get paid a salary. Maybe there's a bonus. That's not going to change your life. You need to transform from being a doer to a deal maker. A deal maker, someone who buys and sells businesses for a living. So let's talk about what we're going to be doing today. The one-day business buying challenge strategies. There are 12 strategies. Actually, they're not all strategies. Some are philosophies. Some are methods. Some are a way of thinking and an approach. But there are 12 of them. And I've divided the 12 across the course of the day. They're all mixed up. They're not actually in any sort of particular order. So we're doing some this morning, some this afternoon, and some this evening. And there's too many to do in one training. So I've split it across the course of the day. So by the end of the day, you will have absorbed all 12 and your confidence level will have gone up as well. So let me tell you what the 12 are. The first is the buy and build acquisition strategy. The buy and build acquisition strategy is a cornerstone of all the people that I train because they all realize that this is where it's at. You know, this is what is going to make them the real money. And the wonderful thing about this is that it could make you the real money in 36 months. I would say that most people who own a business own it for too long. And I think that you should start to think in 36-month chunks, which means that you can do a buy and build, which is buy businesses, build a group, and sell 3 times in the next 10 years. Or you can turn up at an office and do the same job for the next 10 years. So you've got 3 opportunities in the next 10 years to make a substantial amount of money. And quite frankly, it's not worth doing this if you're going to make hundreds of thousands. It's not worth it. Now, I don't mean that in a arrogant way, but it's really not worth it. What you need to be doing is thinking in the big numbers. You need to be thinking in the millions. And you should be thinking in 36-month chunks. So you've got 3 years, 3 years, 3 years. You might think, well, hang on, Jonathan, that's 9 years. Where's this extra year come from? Well, you'll want to have some holiday time after each sale. Take some time off, take a few months off, go sailing, do whatever you want to do. But the buy and build acquisition strategy is the game changer strategy. This is the game changer strategy that will change everything for you if you apply it correctly. And I'm going to teach you how to do that in just a few moments' time. I'm going to not just say buy some small businesses, put them together and sell them. I'm going to show you some extra little tricks, if you like, along the way so you can make money during that 3-year process as well. Next, we're going to talk about the star deal. The star deal is the perfect acquisition. How do you know if a business is a good business to buy? Well, I'm going to be sharing with you what a perfect acquisition looks like. I'm going to be showing with you exactly the 5 elements to make a deal that will make you starry-eyed, if you like. The next is a philosophy, is a way of thinking that I want you to come around to. And we call it get off the org chart. The org chart is the organizational chart. In your business at the moment, if you own the company, you're probably sitting at the top of the org chart with people reporting up to you. That's your org chart. All the people in the company. Where do they sit? Where do they do? Who do they report to? Your org chart right now might be just you. You report to you. It's a business of one. Well, you can't really sell a business of one. There are exceptions, but you can't typically sell a business of one. So if you're going to do this, you need to buy and build to create a larger business that you could sell. But I'm going to show you how to get off the org chart. Number 4 is the light bulb moment. And I hope that you're going to be having many of these throughout the course of the training today. The light bulb moment is the moment where you go, oh my goodness, I'm going to kick myself because I have wasted the last decade of my life. And sometimes it's not a pleasant feeling to feel that you've wasted a decade of your life. But for many people, you will have that feeling. The good news is there's another decade ahead. So let's not make the same mistake again. I'm going to show you how to triple the value of your company strategy. To triple the value of your company strategy, if you've got a business right now, you can actually put into action between now and Christmas. Now is an amazing time to do it. I know that we shouldn't feel happy about a worldwide recession, but you can be a victim in this, or you can be a victor. And a victor is the winner. You come out of this being a winner. Don't come out of this being a victim. So you can triple the value of a company. I'll show that to you later. And then I want to talk about the valuation philosophy formula. And everyone gets hung up on mathematics and accounting principles when it comes to valuing a business. But I'm going to show you a way of thinking that means that you can add a layer to, so your accountant might say, well, the business is worth this much. But I want you to think of it from an entrepreneurial perspective. So I'm going to show you how to think about how to value a business that you want to buy. I'm not going to show, there's going to be no or very little mathematics in the program today. I've got a little bit coming up, but that's going to be the only part, because I don't want you to switch off because you're not numbers orientated. But I'm going to show you this valuation philosophy formula. And then I'm going to show you the deal funnel. The deal funnel is how you get your deal flow. Now I'm going to show you how to create a deal funnel so that you will have as many acquisition opportunities that you possibly want. I've generated 345 in the last 12 months. So let me just tell you what that means. 345 people have come to me to say, Jonathan, I'm interested in selling you my business. That's what you want. You don't want to be going knocking on doors. You don't want to be cold calling. I mean, I see some terrible advice. There are people out there who I know they're stuck in the dark ages, or they just have never done it themselves, because they give terrible advice like cold calling and sending emails. And oh my goodness, it is absolutely crazy. And it's wrong. It's completely wrong. I'm going to share with you my deal funnel so you can see exactly how I do it. And then we have something called the risk-free strategy. I'm going to show you how to buy a business so it's risk-free. And I think that's kind of what we all want, isn't it? We don't want risks in our life. We want to reduce the risk in our life. So I'm going to show you how to do this in a risk-free method. And then we're going to talk about the no money left in strategy. Buying a business with no money left in, which means that, to put it in another term, you are cash neutral, i.e. it's a free business. How do you get the business for free to you? Now, always lots of questions about that, but save the questions until this evening. I'll answer questions this evening, but I'll teach you that this afternoon. The takeover strategy. Now, sometimes people say to me, Jonathan, it's all very well buying a business. What happens then? What happens on the first day? What do you do? How do you put together a strategy for taking over the business? You bought it, but now you own it. What happens next? I'll teach you the takeover strategy. It's number 10. Number 11 is the deal fee. Now, this is a real corker. What if you could make money when you buy a business, not just when you sell a business or own a business? So there are 3 times to make money in this game. When you buy it, when you own it, and when you sell it. Now, when you own it, makes sense. When you sell it, makes sense. But how do you make money when you buy it? I'm going to share with you exactly how you make money when you buy a business with the concept of the deal fee. And then we're going to talk about choosing a sector. How do you choose the type of business to buy? And a lot of people get stuck on this. And I know on my fast track program, because we spend a large part of the first day getting people tuned into exactly what type of business to buy, what is the best type of business to buy, which type of business to avoid, and so forth. The sector system will start to focus your mind so that you can actually action this information, as opposed to it being just an intellectual exercise today. So those are our 12 strategies, systems, methodologies, philosophies, whatever you want to call them, that we're going to be talking about today. So the plan for today is that this part, we're going to run up to about 11:30. These times are we'll start always on time, but the end time is approximate. Part 2, we'll do at 2 o'clock this afternoon. This is UK time. And then part 3, 7 to 8:30. And I'm probably going to stay online for another 30 minutes, hour maybe, after we finish this evening. So after we finish the part 3 this evening, because I want you to be able to ask me questions. I can't answer questions while I'm doing the training because I can't read a question, answer a question, and I'll just lose the track of what we're doing. But this is the formula. So how do you do this? You just use the same link and log back in for each session. Log back in for each session. Please log back in about 5 minutes before the session starts. So just to remind you, before the 2 o'clock session and before the 7 o'clock session, because I'll be going straight into it, dead on time. There'll be no time to waste. Now, towards the end of this session, I'm going to tell you about the fast track program, which starts on Monday. So if you enjoy the free training today, and it's given you a little bit of a taste of my style and what I do, then I would invite you to join me starting Monday for what we call the fast track program. And I will tell you about that later on. I don't want to encroach on our training time today, but I will tell you about that later on. So those of you who want to jump on board and make it happen immediately, the fast track will get you there fast. So let's talk about the buy and build acquisition strategy. You might want to get your pad and your pen ready for this. And I'll have a sip of water as well. Because this is the biggie. This is a biggie. This is one that will really start to get your juices flowing. This will start to get you excited. Yeah, if this doesn't get you excited, then you're in the wrong place, quite frankly. You shouldn't be thinking about buying a business. This is the turning point for my clients. When I say my clients, I mean the people who pay me for the mentoring and the advice and the assistance. The buy and build strategy, sometimes called the roll-up, is the shortcut to making very nice amounts of money within a reasonable time scale. We're talking 36 months, probably at the bottom end, 60 months at the top end, but the closer we can get to 36 months, the better. I think most business owners just own their businesses for too long. You need to start thinking like an investor. Think like a deal maker, not like an owner. An owner says, oh, well, yeah, it's my baby. I'm going to work on it over the next couple of years. And in year 2, I'll build a website. In year 3, we'll start trading online and maybe move into different countries. No, let's speed it up, guys. Come on. You haven't got time to waste. If you're anything like me, you look in the mirror each day and you see another gray hair. There's quite a few at the moment. And you think, not getting any younger. So, we need to speed everything up. And this is how we're going to do it. Now, I want you to, these numbers are all nice, neat, round numbers because they're here for the purposes of illustration, because they're just here to illustrate a point. But I want you to understand the point I'm making. Don't get hung up on the numbers. Just understand the point and the story that the numbers teach you. Okay, so we've got business number 1. It's a business that makes £100,000 profit, and we think that this business is worth 3 times that profit, £300,000. So very, very simple. It's a small business. It makes £100,000 profit. Not setting the world alight. It's nothing to write home about. It's a nice business, but it's not worth an awful lot of money. It's probably worth no more than 3 times. But that's what we're going to buy it for, £300,000. Now, how we buy it, how we structure it, how we find the money, all of that would cover later. Right now, I'm teaching you a concept. I'm teaching you a strategy. And I want you to understand this because when you understand it, everything else will fall into place. Business number 2, business number 2 is identical. 100,000 profit, 3 times value, buy it for 300,000. And so is number 3, and so is number 4, and so is number 5. So what we've done is we've gone out and we've used the deal funnel, I'll talk about it later, to find 5 businesses. Now, could this 5 be 10? Yes, it could. Could the 10 be 20? Yes, it could. Could the 20 be 40? Yes, it could. Could the 5 be 3? Yes, it could. So the number is not the important part. The concept is what I'm teaching you. So we've got multiple businesses, and they're all going to be in the same sector or very, very closely related with the same type of customer. Okay? So these are our 5 businesses. Now remember, how you find the money, where you get the money, how you structure that, Don't worry about that right now. It's too early to think about that. I'm teaching you the strategy. So the total purchase price is 1.5. How did we get that? Well, we just took our 300,000, we multiplied it by 5. So we're going to be investing, spending, if you like, 1.5 million pounds to buy those 5 businesses. Again, don't worry where you get the money from. We'll cover off that later on. The total profit in these businesses is 500,000. Remember, each one made 100,000. So we now got a 500,000 profit business. Total cash required on completion, 250,000 pounds. Again, don't worry about this, but that 1.5 million isn't what we pay on day one to buy these businesses. We take legal control of these businesses for 250,000 pounds. That's 50,000 per business. Don't worry where you find the 50,000 pounds from. I'll be covering that in the training this afternoon. But let's just accept these numbers. Don't challenge the numbers, just accept them, because if you accept them, you'll come to the realization of how this works an awful lot faster. Now, here's the thing. We're going to take those 5 businesses and we're going to consolidate them. And as a result, we're going to add 40% profit to each company. Now, most of you with businesses might think, well, Jonathan, hang on. How can you add 40% profit to a business? How can you do that? How can you do it quickly? Because you see, most business owners come from the perspective of business is hard. And business is hard because you win a customer today, you lose one tomorrow. You take 1 step forward, you take 2 steps back. You have a good month, you have a bad month. We haven't got time to waste here. We're a consolidator of these 5 businesses. We're not an operator, we're a consolidator. So what we do is we take out all the overlap, all the redundant office space, all of the staff that do the same job. So we reduce the cost base of each business. Now, when you reduce the cost base of a business, that has the impact of increasing the profit. You see, everyone thinks to get more profit, you have to sell more. Well, you can. And in actual fact, I would encourage it with our 5 businesses. Yeah, let's get them cross-promoting to each other's customer bases. Yeah, let's do all that easy, free stuff to build more customers. Absolutely fine to do that. But the faster way to do it is to reduce your cost base. It's so much easier. That will have an impact within the first 30 days of owning the business. So actually, increasing your profit by 40% is a lot easier than it first appears. Our total profit across our group, remember now we now have a group. We don't have 5 individual businesses, we've consolidated. We've got a group, is £700,000. Remember, it used to be 500 when we bought it. It's now 700, okay, because we've done all this cost reduction. Now, remember, we bought the business for 3 times profit. So we bought each one for 300,000. But that was because it was a small business. It was only worth 3 times because it hadn't proven anything. It was just a little business. But now we've got a big business that throws off 700,000 profit a year. We can sell that for a lot more because it's worth a lot more. An acquirer says, well, I'd rather buy a business that makes 700,000 profit than a business that make 100. And I'm willing to pay more for a 700,000 pound a year business because the future looks brighter. It's going to be able to service more debt. So when I borrow the money to buy this business, I'll be able to borrow more because I've got my 700,000. And it's proven it can do something bigger, which is why our exit multiple might be 6 times. Now, I've been conservative with this number. I really would love to put 7 or 8 because I think that's more realistic. However, I don't want to be accused of getting people excited about things that aren't possible. So I reduced it down to 6 just because I want to keep it super sensible. So our exit multiple is 6, which means that we can sell that group of businesses for £4.2 million. Now remember, our total purchase price of the group was 1.5. We're already doing really, really well. But I want to give you a couple of extra little tips, if you like, that will make you more excited about this than you possibly are at the moment. And by the way, if you've never heard this concept before, it is actually quite mind-blowing. You buy small businesses at a low price, and by virtue of them being part of a larger group, because you put them all together over here, it's now worth a higher price. Wow. That's like going to a car boot sale and buying a porcelain doll for £1 because that person doesn't want it, taking it to an antique dealer who gives you £100 for it. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, this is what we're talking about here. What if we could buy businesses that other people didn't want for low prices, put them together into a shiny new business that's far more exciting that someone wants to pay a high price for? That's what we're doing. But let me give you some extra piece of information. Now, I don't want to lose anyone on the mathematics here, so I want you to accept the concept rather than challenge the maths. Now, remember we said that we were only going to pay $50,000 per business on day one. That's what we call the initial consideration. The consideration is the agreed payment for the business. The deferred consideration is everything that comes later. Now, the deferred consideration across that group of 5 acquisitions is 1.25 million. Remember, we paid a total of 250 on day one, which leaves 1,250,000 to pay going forward. But hang on. If you're reading your screen here, it says reduce the deferred consideration by 30%. But Jonathan, we've got a contract. How does that work? We have a contract with the buyer to pay them, or the buyers in this case, to pay them that 1.25 million. How can you reduce it? Let me tell you how you reduce it. You go to the seller of each business and you say this one simple line. And I hope you appreciate the beauty of this line. I hope you do. The line is this. The one sentence is this. I've come into some money. I've come into some money. Not I've gone and borrowed some money. Not I've got a pot of money sitting in the background here. I've just come into some money. Now, what does that make you think when I say that? For most people, it thinks maybe you've inherited some money. It's the long lost aunt that's left you an inheritance. But I've come into some money. It doesn't sound particularly business-like. It sounds like personal money. And you say, look, I know that we owe you some deferred payments over the next 3, 4, 5 years. What I'd very much like to do is to settle up with you on those deferred payments soon, in the next month. And if I did, I would want to apply a discount simply because I need an incentive for paying you now as a lump sum rather than over the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Average, from my experience and the experience of my clients, the average reduction you'll get is 30%. Some more, some less. Because money today is worth more
than money in the future. So let's say it's an average of 30% across that 1.25 million. We can actually reduce that down to 875,000. But where do you get your 875,000 from? Well, this is the thing. You go to the bank and you say to your bank, look, you know that I bought these 5 businesses and we owe these 5 businesses some money over the next 3, 4, 5 years, whatever the term of the agreement is. We would like to swap out that debt to the people who sold us the company with bank debt. Because we're paying them over 3, 4, 5 years, we'd like a term loan for 10 years so that we can reduce our monthly and quarterly payments to the owners of the business. We can reduce it down, spread it over a longer period of time, and we'd rather pay an interest rate to the bank in order to be able to do that. So we're going to refinance 1.25 million. So the bank gives us 1.25 million to go and reduce and pay off the deferred consideration. But kind of around the same time, we're having a chat with each of these owners and we've got a reduction by 30%. Do you see what's happening here? We now have a shortfall. We've got a gap between the 875 that we give our sellers a gap between them and the 1.25 we get from the bank. Which means that £250,000 that we used to buy the 5 businesses, and don't worry where that came from, we'll cover this later, you can now pay that back. So let's see what's just happened. We've paid off the deferred consideration and exchanged it for a long-term bank debt. And we've also taken back out and paid off that 250,000 that we used to buy the businesses in the first place. We still have a shortfall of 125,000. Now, what are we going to do with that 125,000? This is my first introduction for you to the concept of the deal fee. The deal fee is a fee that you pay yourself for being the clever person to come on this training, go and find the businesses, put the deal together and buy them. So you get yourself a £125,000 deal fee. Now, I'm not going to give you advice on tax and anything like that. That's just not my remit and not my skill set. But your tax advisor will be able to tell you how to do that in the most tax efficient way. But the bottom line is, you've just bought 5 businesses. We now just have a long-term bank debt for a reduced amount for only 875,000, and we've just paid ourselves a deal fee. We are doing well here. So let's just recap. If we do this in the first 12 months, no cash is left in. In other words, any money that was put in at the start to make the acquisitions has been got back out again. We've paid ourselves a deal fee of £125,000. Our cash flow we've got cash flow during ownership, you see, because these businesses are making a profit, remember? So there's money coming out from the profit. Now, let's say, and don't worry too much about the percentages and everything, but let's say that even after we've repaid the bank debt, let's say at 3.75%, we're still making on our group of businesses over £500,000 a year. So guys, you've now got a group of businesses making over £500,000 a year after you've paid the bank. And remember, we can sell this for 4.2 million. Now there's some debt in there. There's some remaining debt. So this is the bank debt we need to pay off. Assuming 1 year of debt repayments, we can make ourselves just over £3 million. So let's look where we started. We had a deal funnel. I'll teach you that this afternoon. You went off and you found 5 businesses. You negotiated 5 deals. You bought them for small amounts of money. You put them together. You made them more profitable. You refinanced the deferred consideration. You paid all that off. You took out a deal fee. You took out the money that you used to buy the 5 businesses in the first place. And now you can sell that group and clear 3.1 million. Look, even if you don't sell it for a year or so, you're still making £500,000 a year profit before tax. Now, I don't think that that's a bad situation to be in. And what I'm going to be doing during the training today is giving you all the elements that you need to make this happen. Now, I would strongly suggest that this is a 3-year project. This is a 36-month project. You've got to go and find the businesses, put the deals together and buy them. To buy 5 businesses like that will take you the next 12 months. If you get started today, if you get moving, 12 months. And then you've got to do the consolidation, you've got to do the refinancing, you do all that in the next 12 months. And you run it as a profitable group for the third 12 months. And then you sell. And then you take 6 months vacation and you do it again. And you do it again. And you do it again. That's your life as a deal maker rather than someone turning up at an office and sitting behind a desk. Now, which do you think is more exciting? That is a rhetorical question, does not require an answer. Which do you think is more exciting? So how do we find a great business to buy? Or rather, because we'll cover that later, what is a great business to buy? What does a great business to buy look like? I call this a star deal. What's the star deal? What's a deal that is going to set the world alight here? What are we looking for? Well, we're looking for 5 different elements. This is what we're looking for. This is strategy number 2, if you like. We're looking for a motivated seller. As soon as someone says, Well, I'm not really interested in buying. Let me start that again. As soon as someone says, I'm not really interested in selling my business, make me an offer. Really? No, thank you. I'm not playing that game. I want someone who says, well, yeah, I'd love to sell my business. And if I could do it in my own time scale, I'd sell it yesterday. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a seller who's got a very sensible valuation. I do meet a lot of people. Often they've been egged on by business brokers who want to sell their business for amounts of money that, quite frankly, are just unrealistic. They are never going to get it. It's never going to happen. They're always going to be disappointed. And quite frankly, I cannot buy a business at a stupid amount of money. Because remember, you make your money when you buy the business. If you overpay when you buy the business, it doesn't work. You've got to pay. The opportunities coming onto the market right now, this week alone, 3. I expect, and all of these are direct to the seller. There are no brokers involved. They weren't listed on a website or anything. And they are small amounts of money to buy these businesses, really, really small. Sensible valuations, because I've got a very motivated seller. But I also want to buy a business that's got potential. Quite frankly, if it hasn't got potential, what's the point? It needs to have potential. It's got to have potential. When I talk to you about valuation this afternoon, I will let you know my philosophy around a potential. I also want a deal structure that works for me. When someone says I want all the money on day one, I've got all manner of different ways of changing their attitude of how that should be done. I teach that in quite a lot of detail, actually, because I think it's really, really important. But I like a structure where I don't have to pay anything on day one, preferably. And if I do have to pay something, it's very small, and I can do this no money left in deal where I get that money straight back afterwards. So I need my seller and my deal to have a structure that really works for me. And I want simplicity as well. I don't want 5 directors. One doesn't want to sell. One is superbly motivated. One lives abroad and doesn't even know much about the business, and 2 don't care. I mean, how am I going to pull 5 personalities together to accept my deal? I can do it, and I've done it. I did it with 37. 37 shareholders once. I had to get 37 shareholders to all agree to the same deal. And it was a nightmare. It was worth it because it was worth millions of pounds to me. It was worth it. But I prefer simplicity. I prefer simplicity where we can just do a very, very simple deal. It's one person I'm dealing with. Maybe it's 2 people at the most. 3 people, it does start to get a little bit more complex. And I just want to keep it nice and easy. So I'm looking for a motivated seller with a sensible valuation, a business with potential, a deal structure that works for me. It's got to work for them, obviously, but it has to work for me. There's no point in them working for them and not working for me. It has to work for me first. And simplicity. I want a deal that I can do in a simple manner. So that's what the best type of deal looks like. So I said to you earlier that you should be thinking about getting off the org chart. Now, if you own a business right now, the chances are pretty high that you sit at the top of the org chart, people report up to you, or if it's a one-person business, then you are the organizational chart. If I said, get a piece of paper and write out the organizational chart in your business, you might just write your own name in the middle of that piece of paper. It's a pretty lonely piece of paper. So I think that you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable position. You will never sell a business for the maximum value. And I tell you why most people who are in an organizational chart of 1 don't have more people. They don't want to employ people. They think it's hassle. I think I mentioned earlier, I've got 100 people working for me at the moment in the businesses that I bought. With the acquisitions that we're making, that will be 300 by Christmas. So 300 people sounds like an absolute nightmare. I've got a freelance HR person who looks after all the issues, and there's always issues. I don't deal with it. I mean, I don't even know these people's names. And I don't mean that in a cavalier way. I'm not showing off when I say that. What I mean is that if I started to have a personal relationship with 100 people or 300 people, it would just drive me around the bend. They'd all be texting me and they'd be phoning me and emailing me, and I wouldn't be able to do what I do. So you need to get off the org chart. And I think this is a philosophy rather than a strategy. But it is certainly a strategy in terms of you will increase the value of your business if you do so. Buying a business is not about creating a job for yourself. It's not about doing that. If your current business is really a well-paid, or maybe it's a not so well-paid job, you can use an acquisition to remove yourself from the day-to-day running. So if your business is stuck in a rut, buying a business and bolting it onto your existing business is a brilliant way to revitalize it. Revitalize it with a fresh approach, fresh products, fresh services, revitalize it with a fresh team, with a fresh focus on the future. If you're bored with your business, then buying a business is a great way to bring the thrill and the excitement back. And you've got to be working on the business rather than in the business. If you read Michael Gerber's E-Myth, it came out I read it 30 years ago when it first came out. And if you haven't read it, I can summarize it in a sentence. It's work on the business rather than in the business and systemize everything. And when you start to work on the business, you will find that all the stresses of working in the business disappear. And you'll find yourself that you'll get a business that is worth so much more money. You see, you're going to have light bulb moments throughout the course of the training today. And this afternoon, I'm going to ask you what your light bulb moments were between this morning's training and this afternoon's training, because I want you to be thinking about this. I want this to be a full day where you think about business buying and the opportunities and the possibilities. So I'm going to be asking you later what your light bulb moment is, but let me give you a suggestion of what it might be. You see, for me, when I was a doer, I was in the office every single day. And I felt that if I didn't go to the office, the business would fall apart. People would need me. Who would answer their questions? And it was just a crazy, crazy period of my life. And it was a nightmare managing staff. Absolute nightmare managing staff. And if you have staff right now, the staff themselves never realize that they are the nightmare. So those of you who are on the webinar and on the training who work for someone else right now, you probably don't realize that you're your boss's nightmare. Okay. And you will only discover that when you employ people yourself. All the stuff that you think is normal, taking that extra time off and working from home and doing, that's all the nightmare for the boss. All right. And that was my nightmare every single day. I worked weekends because it was the only quiet time in the office, and I never saw my family as a result. Now, when I started selling businesses that I bought, life as a deal maker changed. I had the freedom of choice. Quite frankly, I made so much more money. I had the choice, and in the early days, it comes down to having a choice over which car you drive. Pretty sort of basic and, almost sort of slightly childish things, I guess. But we've all got to do it, right? We've all got to buy the nice car because we want to feel good about that. But you can't afford it when you're paying everyone else first. You get paid last. When you start thinking like a deal maker, you start to make more money, and you have the freedom of choice with holidays, with homes, with schools, all of these things. And you can hire a management team to run it all for you. So I hired a management team. They run it all for me, so I don't have to get involved. And as a result, you have more time, there'll be less stress, and you will make more money. I don't know what's not to like about this. Now, there are 4 things that you need to do to be really good at doing this. The first is you need to have really good knowledge. And I think the training today is going to give you some amazing knowledge. It can't give you everything. Goodness me, if you could learn a subject in 3 webinars, we'd all be at it, right? So knowledge is important though. But let me just give you the test. You've got to know more about buying a business than the other person knows about selling it. So you need to know more about buying the business than the other person knows about selling a business. If you end up sitting opposite someone who sold a business before, knows how it works, and you don't know what you're doing, you're going to come a cropper. So you need to know more about buying a business than they know about selling a business. The second is confidence. I think what the training today is going to be giving you is lots of confidence. And you need confidence so that you can sit down with the owner of a business and negotiate a deal. Now, confidence will not come overnight. The training today will help build your confidence, though. You also need a team around you. You'll hear me mention people who do due diligence, my HR, legal, accountancy. You need all these people, tax, finance brokers. You need a team around you. This is not a one-person job. You need a team around you. And then you need to have deal flow. And I'm going to be teaching you this afternoon my deal funnel. and how I get the deals. I think we're up to 345 or something in the last 12 months. These are people who come to us. They've phoned us, they've emailed us, they've contacted us about selling their business. And these are the 4 elements. And if you combine these 4 elements, and don't miss any part of it out, you're going to have an amazing combination. The good news about all of this, by the way, is you don't need a lot of money to do it. This afternoon, I'm going to be teaching you some methodologies that don't require large cash. You don't need a perfect credit history. People often worry about this. They say, I've got a damaged credit for whatever reason. It could be damaged credit because of the pandemic. But it doesn't make any difference because we're not going to be using your personal credit history in any way whatsoever. I'm never asked. No one ever looks. No one ever checks. You can buy a business bigger than yours. Growing via acquisition gives you more time and money, in case you haven't got that point yet. It's a set of skills that you can learn, and you can become a great negotiator. I'm going to be giving you a couple of negotiating tips this afternoon and this evening. But let's get all the negatives out of the way, all the things that can stop you. No time. Do you remember I mentioned Andy, who had worked hard at one business and his first acquisition doubled the value of the 10 years of effort? Well, Andy used to say to me, Jonathan, I haven't got any time to buy a business. I don't have time. I don't have any time. I don't have any time to do this. And then he made his first acquisition. He said, I get it now. You don't have time to do it when you think it takes a long time because you don't know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing and you've got a strategy and you've got a process, then you've got the time. You've got the time. So no time is not an excuse. No money. I would say that let's say 95% of the people who do my fast track training, they don't have huge pots of money sitting around to buy a business. But that's where you need to be a little bit creative. Sometimes people don't know what type of business to buy. By the end of this training, you will know exactly what type of business to buy. So don't worry about that. And then, of course, people say coronavirus. You can't buy a business. Well, I mentioned I've got 3 happening this week. It's not stopping us. In actual fact, it's speeding up the process. It's creating more motivated sellers. And that's what you're looking for, remember, on our star deal, a motivated seller. So how do we triple the value of your company strategy? Now, this assumes that you've got a business already. So don't switch off if you haven't got a business, because you soon will have. So if you've got a business already, how do you triple the value of your company with this strategy? And I used this strategy to add £4.5 million to the value of a business with one acquisition. So let me give you the numbers behind the business, because I think you'll find this interesting. And I want you to see a pattern here. Now, the first year of trading of this business, we did £960,000 of revenue. Now, not bad in the slightest. I was 27 years old at the time. £960,000 of revenue isn't bad for starters. Year 2, we did £1.4 million of revenue. So that's a lovely upward growth curve there. I'm enjoying that. That's very good. Year 3, £1.9 million of revenue. Again, a lovely growth curve. Now, if you haven't found the Q&A box, I'm going to ask you to type something into it in a minute. So get ready, okay? Year 4, we did £2.2 million of revenue. Again, a lovely growth curve going in just the right direction. And then year 5, we got ourselves a problem, because we're at £2.2 million of revenue again for the second time in a row. So I want you to type into the Q&A box why that's a problem. Why is that a problem? Why is that a problem? What's wrong then? It's stagnant, says Ritesh. Yeah, absolutely. Lack of growth. Yes, it is. No growth at Donald. Static, stagnant, no growth. It's reached its potential. Not making any more profit. Yeah, brilliant. You're with me. We're on the same page. That's really good. Complacency setting in. Yeah, that was true. Hurt sales prospects. You've hit a plateau in business growth, says James. Flat growth, says Gareth. Skews valuation, says Nathan. Plateau, says Sari. Team required, says Swanee. I'm going to answer questions that are not relevant to this later on. Time for an acquisition. Yeah, okay. You've got the idea. So we're at year 5 and we're at 2.2. We're stuck. So look what happens in year 6. This is what happens in year 6. £5.1 million of revenue. So get your Q&A box ready. Type in what happened between year 5 and year 6. What happened between year 5 and year 6? Let's have a look. What happened between year 5 and year 6. Let's see if you've got it, if we're on the same page. Bought a business, acquisition made, roll up acquisitions, investment, roll up acquisitions, bought a business, you acquired a company, acquisition, bought a business. Yes, you're on the right path. Bought a business. Let me tell you which business I bought. I bought a competitor. How did I find out about a deal? They phoned me. They called me. I knew about them. I knew about them very well. And they called me, and the owner said to me, it was on a Sunday afternoon, and he said, Jonathan, would you come up to Wolverhampton to talk to me about my business tomorrow? Now, I don't know about you, but I need a really good reason to go to Wolverhampton any day of the week, especially on a Monday. So if you're from Wolverhampton, I apologize, but I'm only joking. So I went up to see him on that Monday afternoon. And on Friday afternoon of the same week, 4 days later, I owned the business. Now, here's the thing. When people say it takes too long to buy a business, or you can take 6 months, they don't know what they're talking about. It can do if you haven't got a process. But I had a process. I just followed the process. And between Monday afternoon and Friday afternoon, I owned the company. Now, I bought the assets rather than the shares. And there's a big difference between buying assets and buying shares. There's a huge difference. But I bought the assets. And as a result, I owned that business by the end of Friday. Now, this is what the business looked like before that acquisition. So in the 12th of January 2007, my accountant, asked by me, went through all the numbers and did what we thought was a very sensible valuation of the business. And we believed that we could sell that business for £2.5 million. That was on January the 12th, 2007. January the 12th, 2007. Then in the summer of 2007, we made that one acquisition that I've just been talking about. Now, we bought the assets. I told you this. We bought the assets. The assets of a business quite often are down to the tables, the chairs, the computers, the database, the website, the phone number, whatever it might be. And as a result, we bought it for a very, very small amount of money. I just wrote a check out of my personal account. It was simple, very, very simple. And we bought the assets. And then I sold the combined business on November the 17th, 2007. So the same year, about 11 months after that initial valuation, and about 5 months after the acquisition that we've just been talking about, the acquisition of the assets of one of our competitors. And as a result, I sold the business on the 17th of November 2007 for £7 million. Now, we've nearly tripled the value of this company. And all that happened between January and November was we bought a competitor. Now, what impact did that competitor have? The impact that that competitor had was to remove from the market a tension between two businesses. We were constantly competing for trade. So our advertising costs came down. Now, this business also had a customer database that we could sell our products into. So our sales went up. So we did lots of things that reduced our cost base and several things that increased our profitability. So as a result of these two things, we ended up with a sale at £7 million in cash. Now, here is my question for you, and here is my challenge, if you like. Between now and our next session at 2:00, I want you to make a list of competitors that if you bought them would, number one, make your life easier, number two, make your business bigger, number three, make your business more profitable, and number four, allow you to sell your business for more than what it's worth right now. That's the challenge. Let me introduce you to someone who doesn't have much of a public figure, but someone who's been doing what we've been talking about on this training for the last 20 years. Jim Ratcliffe has been doing what we've been talking about today in oil and gas and chemicals. He's never started a business from scratch. He's never done a startup. 20 years ago, he was an employee of British Petroleum. He was an employee. He worked in one of their oil and gas divisions. And he thought, they're going to close down this division. I reckon I could buy it. Now, he didn't have any money. Yeah, he was an employee. He had his salary every month and he had his house, but he didn't have enough money to buy a division of BP. So he went and raised the money. And he bought a division of BP. And then he bought another part of another person's business and another part of another company's business. And he started to put it all together and he created a company called Ineos, which made him the UK's richest person in 2018. Now, this is the Sunday Times Rich List. In the UK, we have the Sunday Times Rich List published every year. 1,000 of the richest people in the UK. And he became number one, doing exactly what we've been talking about so far on the training and what we're going to be talking about this afternoon and this evening.